public orientation to God then reflected where? Reflected in concrete ways, in national holidays, in civic liturgies, in laws, indeed, Sabbath laws, Sunday laws that would require a cessation of what? Commerce.
Heretofore, those who presented the truths of the third angel's message have often been regarded as mere alarmists. Their predictions that religious intolerance would gain control in the United States, that church and state would unite to persecute those who keep the commandments of God, have been pronounced groundless and absurd. It has been confidently declared that this land would never become other than what it has been, the defender of religious freedom. But as a question of enforcing Sunday observance is widely agitated, the event so long doubted and disbelieved is seen to be approaching.
One of the things that you and I have always been interested in is how can social conservatives take a bigger role in making public policy, not just on their little ghetto of like abortion, religious liberty, and small issues, but in every domain. But there are implications for social conservative values across many issues. One of the interesting proposals that you've laid out in Project 2025 handbook from Heritage is stuff around the Sabbath.
So what is Project 2025 and what is their objective? According to their own website, Project 2025 will build on 4 pillars that will collectively pave the way for an effective conservative administration. The project is the effort of a broad coalition of conservative organizations that have come together to ensure a successful administration begins in January 2025 with the right conservative policy recommendations. In this instance, Jonathan Berry, a contributing member, provides further detail on one of these policy recommendations.
In many respects, it is a return to something that basically always everyone ever had. Mm-hmm. And it's specifically the idea of encouraging Sabbath rest through discouraging commerce on the Sabbaths. But it would be an encouragement and inducement to rest, but really to kind of coordinate commercial activity for the other 6 days of the week, which is as long as we've had Sabbatarian civilization, beginning in Israel and continuing into Christendom. This is something that's been increasingly a part of the rhythm of civic life. Most importantly, for people to have space to worship and honor God, and secondly, to have times of communal rest with their families and with their communities.
The great question is, how will advocates of a Sunday law advance their agenda in a nation that is rooted in the principles of religious freedom? In the following video, Stephen Wolfe gives greater insight on how this plan will unfold.
So how do you order people, how do you order Christians to eternal life? Well, in an outward way, you do what you can so that they can worship God. And the church can administer word and sacrament. And how, in particular, how would you do that? You'd have Sabbath laws, and Sabbath laws are not simply to punish violations of Fourth Commandment, but to provide the conditions in which people can worship God without distraction. That's the purpose.
In the following clip, Stephen reaffirms the fact that although blue laws are considered archaic and religious in nature, they are still considered constitutional. In fact, as many as 28 states to date have blue laws on the books.
Yeah, I mean, even like the Supreme Court in the 19th century, at least, affirmed that Sabbath laws are okay. And as I understand, it's still actually permissible today because they see it as a day of rest. It's not religious, and in itself, it's actually a secular sort of thing. So I think, if that's what the court wants to say, fine. I'm still going to say it's religious. And so in the end, we should, I think, have Sabbath laws for that purpose, for a religious end. But and as I understand it, though, it is deemed constitutional as a secular purpose. So if a county if a county or town wants to then enact these laws, they would, as I understand it, they'd have to frame it in terms of kind of secular purpose.
Yeah.
And if they want to do that, then okay, fine.
You still get the
still
benefit
achieve
of
the
it.
same end,
Yeah.
and there is a secular purpose to it. So you're not exactly lying, but it's the better purpose, the higher purpose of it will be precisely the, church attendance, worship God.
In the following excerpt, Stephen confirms what critics have long identified as the primary objective of this movement: to enforce a Christian nationalistic version of Christianity.
Answer your critics. People will say, "Oh, it's unconstitutional. You can't do that." Or why would you want to? Why should we do it? How should we do it? And specifically, like, what's the actual roadmap for doing something like that?
The best critique is basically that what you're doing is it's a de facto privileging of Christianity, because which religion has the Sabbath on Sunday? Well, it's Christianity, and so you're not doing it on Saturday. You're not doing it. So you're explicitly saying this is a Christian land, and we're going to all force you to obey some sort of Christian. And so that's the best critique. And I would just say, that's exactly what it does. I would just one of those things. I'm not going to reject their objection. I'm just going to affirm it. Yes, that's what Christian nationalism is actually saying we're going to privilege the true religion, which is Christianity. And so, we are privileging a Christian, holy day in a sense. Every, a good Presbyterian, every Sunday is holy. Yeah. And we're going to do that because we're a Christian nation. That's the idea of Christian nationalism. So I'm not going to retreat to, it's good for all. And of course, everyone gets the day off. Yeah. But it is an explicit recognition of the kind of of privileging of Christianity.
In order to force compliance, as prophesied, these religious leaders will not only look to, but will wield the power of the state to enforce her dogmas.
Civil government is something ordained of God. Civil power is something ordained of God, even though I do believe in consent and the people and sovereignty of people and all that. But it's nevertheless, the power itself is something God grants to people, and that should be used for the good of people. And is there anything better than worshiping God and the sort of means of grace through the administration of word and sacrament that occurs on Sunday? So
nurturing the state, nurturing the church, or even protecting the church. So I don't want your protection. Is Joe Biden really supposed to be punishing me for heresy?
Yeah. No. No.
Although Stephen jokingly says that President Biden isn't supposed to punish heretics, he goes on to say that the magistrate, which is the arm of the state, will have the power to punish what he terms blasphemy. Such a move would inevitably result in a precarious situation where the church could exert influence over the state.
A magistrate cannot say, that guy's a heretic, you're listening to him, I order you not to believe what he's saying, because that would again be an inward matter. But if what the guy, let's say it actually is heresy, just in principle, the magistrate can say, silence, be silent. And because the moment you outwardly say something, it becomes a matter of the public. It leaves the private and becomes public. And so it becomes then a matter of the jurisdiction of you can say the state, or just say the magistrate. And so it can be a matter of law that says you cannot do that.
In the year 2015, the leader of the Roman Catholic Church made history when he delivered a speech before a joint session of the United States Congress. During his speech, the Pope made reference to the common good.
Renew spirit of fraternity and solidarity, cooperating generously for the common good.
In the following video, Chad Pecknold elaborates on what the Catholic Church envisions when the common good is realized.
In the Catholic vision, the sharing of the common good is precisely the way in which our personal goods are elevated. Sabbath laws are a way of publicly orienting us to God, but also safeguarding the common good of the family, the common good of the sacrament of the family, marriage, the common good of local communities, the common good of, indeed, Holy Church. And the state, in making such laws, sets a limit. Itself must set the limit.
In the following clip, Mr. Pecknold further emphasizes the need for a public ordination towards God. He then details the fact that the infrastructure is already in place to restore Sunday laws, traditionally referred to as blue laws.
The public ordination to God is something that has suffered badly in recent decades, but it is easily restored. And I would say it is enacted and continues to be on the books in many different states in the way of blue laws, of Sabbath laws. If you've been following our disputes, we've been proponents of Sabbath laws. A restoration of the Sabbath is the most concrete and material gift that we can give to our nation.
Sunday advocates are pulling all the stops and have made it unmistakably clear what their agenda is. The real question is, are we paying attention?
A public orientation to God then reflected where? Reflected in concrete ways, in national holidays, in civic liturgies, in laws, indeed, Sabbath laws, Sunday laws that would require a cessation of what? Commerce could cease, and we could be free for one day for God.
In this final clip, Stephen offers a word to the wise, in that this movement is a threat to our democracy and to our way of life. Should this movement succeed, in his own words, there would be no religious neutrality. Religious freedom as we know it would cease to exist.
Christian nationalism, as I've presented it, is incompatible with secularism. If Christians get serious, then yeah, we're a threat. I mean, we're a threat to their regime, in the sense that us Christians having power would end that regime. It would end the secularist regime, and there would no longer be religious neutrality.
The Sunday movement is now making its way in darkness. The leaders are concealing the true issue, and many who unite in this movement do not themselves see whither the undercurrent is tending. Its professions are mild and apparently Christian, but when it shall speak, it will reveal the spirit of the dragon. In legislative halls all across America, there is a call for the return to God and His commandments.
Get back to God, faith, and family.
They said we are on a mission to turn our nation back to God.
We'll have a responsibility right now to call our nation back to God.
There is no separation of church and state in the Constitution or Declaration of Independence. It doesn't exist.
Well, tell me about no separation of church and state. State is the body, church is the heart. You take the heart out of the body dies.
We should be instilling God in the classroom, instilling God in the workplace, and in all aspects of society.
We are supposed to have the government bowing the knee to the church, not the church bowing the knee to the government.
According to Deuteronomy 6, in the context of traditional family in the home, we are to diligently instruct our children to love God and to obey His commandments.
In God's word in Exodus 20:18, it says, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy.
Probably we should be debating a bill requiring every American to attend a church of their choice on Sunday to see if we can get back to having a moral rebirth.
The time is not far distant when the world will be compelled to worship on Sunday, which is the mark of the beast. The Sabbath will be the great test of loyalty, for it is the point of truth especially controverted. When the final test shall be brought to bear upon men, then the line of distinction will be drawn between those who serve God and those who serve him not. Jesus said, "If ye love me, keep my commandments, for blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city. Therefore, remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God." For more information on the topics discussed in this video, please visit our website at www.prophesyagain.org.